Hi, it's Brent with Pudgy Trumpets, and on today's product review we'll be looking at my Deep V mouthpiece. It's a trumpet shank, but it has a flugel cup. You can see how deep that is. And I'm not the first to do something like this. I think the first time I ran across a mouthpiece like this was the Curry TF. I was back when I was living in Alaska, and I bought a horn on eBay and it had a mouthpiece with it. And it was marked Curry TF, and I tried it and I thought, wow, this thing's amazing. And I think I always liked deeper cups because I played with so much pressure that my lips would swell up and it gave my lips somewhere to go. But I also like the sound. I grew up playing cornet and flugelhorn, and I just like the mellow sound. So when I was designing my horns, I always had a sound in my head, and so I was using the Curry TF a little bit, and then I'm friends with Trent at Austin Custom Brass, and he has his FX series, which I sold with my horns for a few years when I was going to the conferences and encouraged people to try those out. And then I decided I wanted my own shape, which was, it's neither a copy of the TF or Trent's FX. It's just a slightly different shape. I think Trent's FX is a little bit deeper and the Curry TF is a little bit shallower than mine. So aside from that, you know, what is this mouthpiece? It's a deep cup, as I said, and you can plug it into any trumpet. It's just a standard trumpet shank, but you can see it's a lot shorter than a normal trumpet mouthpiece, and maybe this will give you a better idea of what's going on here. So how can this be? And one of the reasons is that as the cup gets deeper, the mouthpiece needs to be shorter. Otherwise you'll have intonation issues. And this is just an old Bach 7C that I have. And here's a little test I can do for you. I hope you can hear it. And this is the Bach. Now, that's pretty close. But what happens if you have, for example, a regular trumpet mouthpiece, but you have a super shallow cup? And so then this is the shallow lead piece with a normal length and a 7C. You can hear they're different. And what's that going to do for your intonation? Well, it does. It plays with the intonation of the entire horn. And so that's why I have the mouthpiece overall length adjusted to fit the depth of the cup. Otherwise, the intonation is going to be pretty wacky. For example, here's another mouthpiece. You can see it's longer than mine, but it's shorter than this lead piece. I don't know if you can see that. However, it's also a lead piece, about the same cup depth. So what happens there? Here's a lead piece, and here's a lead piece that's been actually shortened. You can hear it's higher. So what you really need to do with mouthpieces is, as you make the cup depth deeper, you need to make the overall length shorter. As you make the cup depth more shallow, you need to make the overall shank longer. That's my opinion. You can hear from the way that the pitches that the mouthpieces themselves make that something's going on, and if you don't adjust for that, something will go on in your trumpet. Everything affects everything. So just to get back to my personal mouthpiece here, and this is what I play. It's a Deep V 45, And on my sizing, everyone always asks, well, what's a 3C? It's just really common to go to the box sizes. And that's pretty hard to do because box sizes are not necessarily, the numbers they're not a good representation of what's going on with the rim diameter. They're just numbers. And we all know that 1 1/4 is huge and a 10 1/2 is smaller. And then the stuff that happens in between there it's not really graduated like you might think. There's not a huge difference between a 5 and a 3 in diameter, for example. So in my system, I just use the inch measurements and I use the last 2 digits. So 45 is 0.645 inches on the inside cup diameter. And so a 35 is 0.635 inches. And so my sizes are 35, 45, 55, and 65. So the big question is, what's a 3C? So I tell people who like to play a Bach 3C that a 55 seems to be the best match. If you like really big cups, get a 65. If you like small cups, get a 35. And a lot of the cup sizing, or the rim diameter I should say, is based on your lips. I don't have very big lips. It's kind of like shoes. If you have big feet, you need big shoes. If you have bigger lips, you probably need a bigger rim diameter. If you have thinner lips like me, probably don't need a really huge cup. You might feel a little bit lost in this a large diameter mouthpiece. So that also brings me to something else, in that I wish I had brought a Di Nicola mouthpiece with me, but he made those by hand. And anymore, I just don't think people are interested in a totally made by hand mouthpiece. We've all gotten used to the quality of CNC machined parts and the repeatability, and that's what I did. I was lucky enough. I don't do CAD, I don't do CNC, but I was lucky enough to find someone who would take my drawings and my ideas, translate them into CAD, and then run them through a CNC machine for me. So each of my mouthpieces are made from my drawings and then translated into a computer generated shape, well, a computer copy of my shape, so that they can be precisely machined each time. So each mouthpiece comes out the same. And if I were to do that by hand on my lathe, there'd be all sorts of variances that wouldn't be acceptable by today's standards. So I was fortunate enough to find someone to work with me to produce my mouthpieces. They're made in the United States, they're plated in the United States, and right now I have the Deep V, which is what we're talking about today, and I have the V, which is a coronet shaped cup. It was actually based on a drawing or a picture I saw of Arbon's coronet mouthpiece that had been cut in half lengthwise and revealed the shape of the cup. So I drew one up that looked like that and submitted it and had that made. And I'll do another video about that mouthpiece. For now, I'm not going to play on the mouthpiece. There's videos, or there's audio of me playing the Deep V versus the V out there. And if you're interested, I'll probably post that video here on my YouTube channel as well, so you can hear the difference. And that's all for today. If you have any questions, post them in the comments below, and I'll do my best to answer. And thanks for tuning in.